Hello, hello, my friends. It is Hondo, and welcome back to the Knights of the Nerd Republic. You know what to do, and stay profitable.
The Nerd Academy podcast is released weekly at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, available on our website at www.thenerdacademypodcast.com and wherever you listen to podcasts. You can find the Nerd Academy podcast on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. You can also help support the show by going to patreon.com/The Nerd Academy podcast, where every donation allows us to bring you more exciting content every week.
Hello there, and welcome back to Knights of the Nerd Republic, the show where your favorite nerds talk all things about the galaxy far, far away. I am your host, Jarod the Dark Jedi Bachman Stubbs, and we have a very fun topic episode for you guys today. I've been saying for a minute that once the TV shows calm down, done with the move, I want to dig into some topic episodes. Thankfully, we are going to have plenty of time for that because we're not going to have our next show until August. If you've not seen our Jedi Survivor review that we did with B Dazzler, go ahead and check that out as well. That's on the podcast feed and on the YouTube channel. But we have a very special episode, one that I have been wanting to do for some time. And before I introduce our guest, a brief word from our sponsors at Sunday's Bloody Mary. You guys know the drill by now, even if I am not quick enough on the draw to pull up the website. There we go. SundaysBloodyMary.com has the most badass Bloody Mary accoutrement in the galaxy with their 3-time award-winning spicy Caesar mix, their mild and traditional mixes if the spice isn't for you. And if you want to get your freak on and garnish that bad boy, they got their award-winning pickled dilly beans, okra, asparagus, and some rim salt. So get on over there to SundaysBloodyMary.com/shop. Use code TNAP, TNAP at checkout. And get 10% off your order and help out your favorite nerds while you do it and get the only Bloody Mary mix this former bartender would put in his bloody. That said, I am pleased to introduce our guest for this episode, your friendly neighborhood, Master Alan of Level Up Sabers.
It is awesome that we were able to make this work out. In the pre-show, we were talking about how many things kind of kept you from being able to do like special topic episodes, and I can't remember when I was doing the Anakin and the Big Feelings stuff on TikTok, but we've basically kind of been connected since then, and so being able to like finally have the time to make the pieces fit is exciting.
Absolutely, and yes, we were speaking, and you know, I try not to get backlogged with like the weekly reviews and stuff, and you know, at the same time that you know, like Mando and Survivor and stuff were winding down, you had a lot to do with the lightsaber stuff. So the sky broke at the perfect time, and I was like, hey, you want to talk about Anakin? And
Let's do
like,
it.
Yeah, and then you know, just perfect confluence of everything.
Yeah.
But Master Alan, if you could let the people know about where they can find you, what you do, what you're working on, the charity you're working with. You're one of the busiest people in this space, and I think somebody who is an aspirational figure in it at that. So,
well, I appreciate that. All right. So on TikTok, you can find me at Level Up Light 1. I've since created some alts for Level Up Light 2 and 3 because for a little while there, lightsaber content was getting flagged as dangerous act. So I caught myself a couple of posting bans at various points because I was hitting things with lightsabers to demonstrate that they were better than a stick. For anybody that doesn't know me from TikTok, I went viral 2.5-3 years ago for saying that my lightsabers were better than a stick. And I went from like, oh, I have this little e-commerce side hustle that has sold, 20 or so lightsabers across a month and a half to selling out of my inventory in 24 hours, placing a resupply order to be able to have more, and then selling through that before I got it.
I have
having
not
to do
had a
another
chance
one.
to buy a Level Up Sabers lightsaber. However, and something that is fun. We talked about this with Brooke when she was on last week. Another like fun little like stars aligning thing is that we both were a part of a Star Wars RPG show that cropped up around the
Oh.
same time. You have the Better
And
Than a
that lets
Stick
me bring
game.
in the Better Than a Stick game. This is exciting. Okay. And so on my YouTube channel, which you can find Level Up Sabers on the YouTubes, but I have a handful of creators that I've met through TikTok, some friends that are helping me do a kind of a lightsaber themed Star Wars actual play. And so it started with reaching out to a creator named Cow Explosion, who is sort of a forever GM on TikTok. Sean, who is High Gain Sad on all of his platforms, and he does a lot of music and Beggar Talk. For those of you not familiar, Beggar Talk is the nickname for anybody that wants to do TTRPG content that isn't D&D. It's I'm begging you to let me do something other than D&D. That's Beggar Talk. But we started talking way back when the Hadrozi controversy came out for D&D's expansion of that moment. And like originally I was going to kind of jump on that new release and like, all right, let's take this source book and make it Star Wars. And then that happened and we were like, I don't think we can responsibly do that. I think this is a really good opportunity to try to highlight a game that's a fun tabletop role-playing game that's not D&D. And Cow and Sean both simultaneously are like, let me tell you about Savage Worlds. And so then I bought the source book. I read through it and I was just like, this is fantastic. This is awesome. We should do this. And that was the beginning of the Better Than a Stick game. We had Chris, the Star Wars layer, Brooke, who is bedazzled. Cadiosaurus was originally going to be with us, but there's a whole bunch of stuff that got in the way. And so we're hopeful that at some point I'll be able to collaborate with her in a TTRPG space. It just didn't work out for this game. We've got Jonna the Hutt. We've recently had Briar as a guest star. That hasn't debuted on YouTube yet, but I'm really excited about that for anybody that knows B. Let me see. I feel like I'm missing somebody, but I think that's everybody. Pretty sure that's everybody. Yeah, but that's everybody in the game. And then I've been doing Star Wars content for forever because I don't want to just have my TikTok channel be, hi, here's my lightsaber. You should buy a lightsaber. My lightsaber is really good because of these reasons. Have you bought a lightsaber? Also, let me show you this lightsaber. Like,
I mean, you are the only saber seller I watch repeatedly run over a lightsaber. So you do have that going for you in terms of separating yourself from the pack. But no, I can't remember the name of it. It was like Knuckles something.
Knuckles.
Knuckles. Okay.
It's got the D guard. Yeah, it's Knuckles.
Yeah. So my character in Ionized Bastards, Fabian Martell, I described exactly that lightsaber for not exactly, but like the black, the chrome. Yeah. And I was like, but with like the basket hilt thing going on, because the Fabian is loosely based off of Lou Wilson's character from the first season of Dimension 20 Fantasy High.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Yeah, because my girlfriend showed me Dimension 20 and I was like, and then Michael McCoy of All Remaining Systems, where Ionized Bastards is hosted, he came to me like right around the time that Taylor and I were finishing up Fantasy High, and I got the name to name him Fabian instead of Fabian and just kind of Star Warsify that name a little bit. And I was like, yeah, like he has like a basket hilt lightsaber because I was trying to like have like a little bit of a send up towards like the fantasy, like kind of sword and sorcery element. And then I saw you bandying about that lightsaber, and I went, oh, well, I know whenever I eventually buy a lightsaber from Alan, I'm gonna get Fabian's lightsaber that he carries. No spoilers as to why Fabian's lightsaber is shaped like that. Go watch Ionized Bastards if you haven't yet.
I will put that on my list. That's exciting.
Oh,
and
I
need to see more of Brooke's stuff. Because she's been in a ton of things. And
yeah,
I haven't had a lot of time.
Brooke wasn't in Ionized Bastards, unfortunately. Although she would be a great addition to that cast. But yeah,
10 out of 10 can recommend.
Yes,
She is
yes.
good people.
I've seen a good bit, not a good bit. I not as much as I wish I have so far, but I have seen a bit of Better Than a Stick.
Oh, good.
And yeah, no, it's a good time. But it made me very happy that there were two Star Wars TTRPG real play shows that cropped up around the same time. I mean, it just made me very happy because I know
Oh, yeah.
I was on a kick of like watching a ton of Dimension 20, and if I were not the person making those Star Wars TTRPG shows, I know I would be like elated that not only was this specific format I was really into right now a big thing. Now there's two about Star Wars, and one's in the High Republic, and one's kind of Mando era, and yeah. But anyway,
Hyperfixation being fed
I know,
happy chemicals in my brain.
I figured out, and then we'll get into our actual topic. I figured out that I cannot, in good conscience, watch Dimension 20 while I don't have a campaign going. I start to hanker to play so bad.
Oh yeah,
And we have like we have like a home game going, a home D&D game going with like a bunch of other Star Wars content creators. It's me, the guys from the Bombad cast, our significant others, Alden Diaz, Michael McCoy. We all have like a home game going.
That's a nice
and
group.
then it's a great group. It's a lot of fun. And then we have Ionized Bastards, and Bastards is between seasons. So originally it was just going to be like a one-off thing, and then we all got way too attached to these characters, and now Michael's cooking up a second season. And we haven't had a chance to pick up our home game in a minute. And my girlfriend and I just started Crown of Candy of Dimension 20, and like every time I finish an episode, I'm like aggressively texting Michael like, "Hey, you got season 2 ready yet?" Like I'm like the Dave Chappelle meme,
You got any more of those campaign sessions that I can participate in?
Yeah, can I swing a lightsaber around? Especially because we've changed formats. We're going to be changing formats for season 2. Season 1 we use like the Fantasy Flight Star Wars system. But that is really hard to do a show with because none of us knew what the hell we were rolling. Michael was the only person who understood what the hell was going on.
And it's a little bit clunky. Like part of the reason why we picked Savage Worlds is because like there's a crunchiness aspect to it, but the combat mechanics are like it goes really, really quick. There's not a lot of like because games that are really crunchy are very difficult to do actual play.
Yeah,
there's so much, and so that's been something I've really enjoyed about that system.
I want to try it out. I've heard a lot of good things, both from you and just like the internet in general. We made the pivot to SW5E,
which is an awesome system as well.
And when we built Fabin in Star Wars 5E, I was giggling the entire time because he's a fucking monster now.
Especially if you're used to D&D, like if you're used to 5E, like going to Star Wars 5E, it feels like Munchkin. Like it's like because everything, like because the power scaling is just so absurd because they want you to feel like a superhero.
Yeah.
And so it's just like, wait a minute, I crit on a 15? What?
Oh, I get to like attack,
like
I get to attack if I roll well, I get to attack like 3 times in a turn and I get to react the entire encounter. I don't, again, this is my first time at SW5E. I'm still a novice with tabletop stuff. But if you do SW5E and y'all aren't like at least considering like the Makashi style for your guy, is a monster. It's crazy.
And as a system, especially like if you're an improv GM, one of the things that's nice about 5e is it is a very good system for, oh no, I'm just going to throw more guys at you.
Yeah,
no, there's more. You go around a corner and there's more. Like it's a wonderful system for that because the characters, like the player characters, get to feel like Marvel characters going through the fodder.
Yeah,
and so it's a really, really good system for that, and it can be a lot of fun to play because you get to feel like a badass.
Yes,
and the mechanics are there to make you as the player a badass, and that's one of my favorite things about that system. Is just how much you giggle when you're in combat because it's just like this is ridiculous, and it's the best.
Oh my god, I know, and I'm not even the only like damage dealer in our party. Jerry, the Cannon Junkie from the Bombad cast in season 1, played like a cuddly assassin droid, and if Fabian, the like morally ambiguous dark Jedi, kind of turned into like some legend fanboy wet dream completely by accident. That's not what I was aiming for, but I was like, well, that's going to be useful. That's going to be useful. That's going to be useful. I hit everything with my lightsaber.
The game system that is designed to allow you to have a self-insert power fantasy all of a sudden like checked all the boxes from the like
Yeah.
like,
I look forward to season
oops, I
two,
made
so-
Star Killer. Oh no.
I
Like-
truly, I accidentally made Star Killer if you were a fencer, and a little fruity like me. And I look forward to doing a lot of durability tests on a lot of people. But one of the
This
things
was unexpected and fun. I'm really glad that we had this little segue.
I know. Real quick before we do jump into the Anakin talk, I do want you to be able to promote the charity you're working with,
Yes,
so you can
thank
spread the
you.
word on that before we get lost in the sauce of the Anakin conversation.
All right. So my wife works for a nonprofit organization that's located here in Louisville, Kentucky, that's called Maryhurst. And so what Maryhurst does is they provide services to kids that have been taken by the state. And so that's a broad and diverse kind of set of reasons. And the people that Maryhurst is responsible for, the people that Maryhurst cares for, these are kids that are incredibly disadvantaged in terms of neglect, malnutrition, delayed educationally, born with substance abuse from the womb, all kinds of things. And these are people that have been preyed upon at every stage of life, basically, since birth. And so these are the groups of people that they take care of. And then they also provide services for foster families. They also provide outpatient stuff. And so like most of their, the students that they have, because they've got sort of a dormitory in school and other things where they go through like life skills and basic education and other stuff like that. And so they have people that live on campus that are, the minors that they are in care of, but they also provide services for children of all genders for outpatient and other types of like therapeutic support and medical stuff and things like that. So this is the mission. It's really, really big. It is entirely people that have basically been pushed to the edges of society and then off the edge itself. And so what they do is really important, and there are more people to help than they have the resources to help, but they do as much as they can with what they have. And so they have a fundraiser that is their outreach fundraiser that they do every year called the Week of Hope. Now it's become so important, and last year it was so big that they have changed the name to Journey of Hope, and it's like a 3-week fundraiser now. And so last year, through my wife and my sister-in-law, we were the second place out of all of the fundraisers last year. I gave away a bunch of sabers and gave away stickers and some other stuff. This year, rather than having a separate fundraiser for my sister-in-law and my wife, because they now both work for Maryhurst, we have one. And so you will provide everybody the link. I'm going to send that to you. It's also in my Beacons link. So if you're following me on any of my social medias, you click Beacons, and then the first little thing on there is the Journey of Hope link. And you'll click that, and it'll bring you to the specific page you need to make a donation. And then everybody that makes a donation of $10 or more, Maryhurst is going to mail you a sticker pack. So I'm going to donate to them as many stickers as they need to send out the sticker pack to everybody that donates $10. And that'll be their thank you for contributing to this. And then if we hit goal, which we're a little less than $400 away as of time of recording, then I'm going to give away 3 sabers. So they're going to draw the winners, and they're going to contact those winners about what sabers they want. And the winners will be able to pick any saber off of my site, or I've got a host of sabers, like character sabers, that aren't listed on the site yet, and they'll be able to choose from those. And then if we make it to first place, the odds of that are now looking kind of slim, because there was like somebody donated somewhere in the neighborhood of $10,000 to a separate link yesterday, which is freaking awesome.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
am sitting here below the $3,000 threshold, and I don't expect somebody to come in and just be like, "All right, 15 grand, here you go, Master Allen." Give that to-"
Level the playing field in the name
that's
of charity.
because that's what it would take. And you know, we're using a platform that's called GiveGab, and so anybody that works for nonprofits, GiveGab is a kind of a donation collection funnel that works sort of like, it works a little bit like a GoFundMe or something like that, where you can, and so it handles all the credit card processing and stuff like that. And so I'm not handling any of the money. It's not like situations where like a corporation will say, "Hey, would you like to donate X amount of dollars to this charity?" And then you're basically filling a giant coffer that they get to then donate and use as a write-off. Like the only part that I'm getting to write off is the stuff that I am personally donating. All of every individual's money, all their money is going to the nonprofit. So it's your donation. It's not my donation. My donation is all the stuff that people are going to get. But yeah, Maryhurst is just an awesome organization. They do really great stuff. One of the reasons that my wife and I clicked when we first started dating is she has worked most of her adult life for this nonprofit that she's really invested and committed to their mission. I have worked all of my adult life for a martial arts school. And so like both of us are in these jobs where it's like, well, I could have been in the private sector and made a lot more money than I have, but I have this thing that I'm passionate about that's really important to me. And that's something that is hard for people, don't always get. They don't always, they aren't always going to understand trading income possibility for, you know, something you're really passionate about or something that you really believe in. And so that was a really important part of us getting together. And so now that I have 130,000 people following me on TikTok, and it's just like, all right, I'm going to pull this lever and we're going to make money for Mary.
Yes.
And we're going to do this once a year in May.
Well, it is a very honorable, an amazing cause, and something that I implore anybody watching this episode, any of our patrons, please go donate and give some love to Maryhurst, and, you know, try to win one of those lightsabers. Try to win the Fabian lightsaber. But
we gotta talk about that at the end, by the way, and we can either have that recorded or not. But I have some thoughts. But so continue. We'll actually be on task because that's a thing that I can do.
Hey man, I'm just having a great time. So the reason I wanted to have you on is because the Star Wars fandom has a lot of interesting, at times, mind-numbing conversations about who is arguably the main character of the franchise, one Anakin Skywalker. And I have a lot of opinions about Anakin. I have a lot of feelings, and something that excites me so much about a lot of what I think the main way I found you on TikTok was through the Anakin and his big feelings conversations you were having. And, you know, it's like 1,000 years ago. This was back when Levi was still on the show. We had Darth Chaco on, and we did a cool episode that was very, you know, like, who is, you know, who's holding the bag for the fall of the Jedi, and kind of talking about the institutional rot, and like a lot of conversations that don't give Anakin a pass, but the way that a lot of the fandom likes to either give Anakin a pass by way of, you know, Anakin and Vader are different people, Anakin couldn't come to the Jedi, you know, Palpatine was whispering in his ear, it's all the Jedi's fault, it's all Palpatine's fault, none of it's Anakin's fault, it's all Anakin's fault, and the Jedi and Palpatine have no role in it.
And Palpatine, for most conversations, Palpatine really gets to dodge the bullets, which I feel is really bizarre. Like Mace Windu catches more bullets than Palpatine, and I do not understand why.
My hot take has always been that Mace deserves none of the blame, and any of the blame that's put on Mace belongs on Yoda. That not in like a it's Yoda's fault, but just a like you know, like the buck stops with me kind of leadership position.
I see where we're coming from. Like Mace is technically like the leader of the council at that point rather than Yoda, but it's also like in order for the Jedi to have dodged the outcome that they received, they would have had to do things that I feel like are more morally objectionable than the choices that they made. And so blaming in hindsight without acknowledging that, I think, is tough.
Yeah, yeah.
Because the Jedi could have avoided their outcome by just going, you know what, Galactic Civil War. This is a whole bunch of powerful people in corporations that don't want to have to behave to the Senate, and this is a whole bunch of people in the Senate that don't want to have to compromise either. So you guys just sort that out. This is a bunch of powerful people that should be able to resolve this by compromising, and you're not willing to. And so you're literally going to war over this. We are not fixing this for you. This is not our job.
It's a loaded issue, you know, and it's not one that's simple. I think it's one that like lends itself towards like a lot of fun, good faith conversations about like, you know, philosophy and the mythology here. But I'm gonna just kind of like give you the floor here, kind of like unpack a lot of like the Anakin and his big feelings, because seeing somebody who is a martial arts instructor, who is a father, get in the weeds about this and not like talk about it from like a, for lack of a better term, like fanboy perspective, or even like the, as I like to call it, like all like fictional history scholar perspective. You know, like I know a lot of like my view on Anakin's fall comes from both the like fictional historical scholar angle and also like my own like academic, you know,
Fictional historical scholar. I love that more than lore. Like fictional historical scholar is just like, that is so much cooler than lore master. I don't know why I like that more than lore master, but I really like that. That's awesome.
I think it's because I hesitate to call myself a master, and
still, like,
I need a way to pretend that to take myself seriously. But like, you know, I have a deep fascination and academic fascination with like the online alt-right. And like, as somebody who has become very, you know, who has a good deal of knowledge about the alt-right pipeline, how it works, that like
Anakin's story in the prequels is a real time.
Yes,
is a
you're
real
watching
time watch.
You're watching a disaffected young
pipeline.
man get radicalized. Yeah,
yeah, like, and just fall down the pipeline and hit every bump along the way of the pipeline, and not miss a single turn, and just all the way down the pipeline.
Yeah. So, and then that's always been the way that I've looked at Anakin's fall, and I love your, and I'm gonna stop talking so that you can talk about it here. To talk about like your outlook on it, like again as a mentor to many younglings, and as a father, the whole Anakin and his big feelings. So
so for anybody that missed it, we'll summarize really quickly. And so I started to do a series of video that I called Anakin and His Big Feelings. And what the videos were is a different way of talking about the prequels, which is as a parent to a child that is consuming the story and watching things that are happening, and then having questions. Because if you are a teenager, if you are a young adult, if you are an adult, and you're watching the prequel movies, then you have a little bit more familiarity with a tragic story. And so like, you're watching Anakin fumble his way to becoming one of the most terrible oppressive fascists in fiction. Like, just like, he's just one of those symbols. Because regardless of whether we want to talk about because if you believe in destiny, then Anakin is destined to be that, and it is a story about destiny. If you don't believe in destiny, then Anakin is this poor kid that made a bunch of really awful choices and then eventually became a monster. And so depending on how you connect to the character, you may like to kind of sit with pre-Clone Wars Anakin a little bit more and think about that as the character, and then all of the other stuff is the result of these other people's actions on his life. But there was this moment where he didn't have to be a monster, and so you like to talk about him that way. If you grew up in a really, we'll just say religious trauma with a blanket, right?
Yeah.
And you had to hide who you loved and you weren't able to talk to the adults around you about who you loved because of what your religion said about that. And then generally that also gets bound up in some predestination stuff. And so then it's I'm told these things are wrong. I'm also told that, like, if I'm made this way, it's because I was made wrong. And so there's all this, right? There's all this stuff, right? And then you see Anakin having to hide his marriage, and your feelings about the Jedi are going to be really, really different because this aspect of Anakin having to hide that is something that you empathize with in a different way. As a parent, like, my kids haven't consumed the Star Wars movies really yet, because for their age and what they want from a story, if it's not musical, they're going to get bored relatively quickly.
I like the first 20 minutes of Jedi.
Um, the best short story in Star Wars is the first act of Return of the Jedi.
Yes,
it is like
Basically.
it doesn't matter that it doesn't actually make sense. There's a whole bunch of like, well, wait a minute, why is this the plan? It doesn't matter. It's awesome. That's why it's awesome. And then there's the rest of the movie that happens, and it's like, well, wait, but I have questions anyway. But so if we're consuming the prequels, and especially kids that are in that like 9, 10, 11, 12-year-old age, right? They're going to see Anakin in Revenge of the Sith, and there's going to be a lot of questions about why Anakin made the choices that he made. Just a lot.
Yeah.
And now there are some people that are going to be like, well, if Anakin had been allowed to be married, then these things wouldn't have happened. He wouldn't have had to keep that secret. And then it's like, well, but buddy, should Anakin have kept a secret? And then this brings in a parenting thing that's also like a anybody that works with kids that have been traumatized thing, or kids that have been groomed. Secret's a word that you want to key on, because secret is a word that groomers use. And so then something, as a parent or anybody that works with kids, if this isn't something that you already know, or if this isn't something you do, it's worth investing in it. Surprises are okay, secrets are not. And so a surprise is somebody is not going to find out about something right now, but they will find out about it later, and that's okay. If a secret is something that somebody is never going to find out about, those are not okay. Because whatever reason it is that it needs to stay, that person never finds out about it, is not a good reason. And there's not a way to explain that it's not a good reason. And so like when you're working with kids and you talk about that, and so then what that is then going to mean is that as these kids face, making choices. Because the way you get good at stuff is you practice. And so you start with little choices so that then when you're ready to make big choices, that you've had practice. So your brain knows how to do it, your body knows how to do it, all that kind of stuff, right? And so if a child has an adult telling them that they need to keep a secret, and you as a parent or a mentor or a leader or whatever have taught them this difference between surprises and secrets, and this other adult or this other person is telling them that they need to keep a secret, then that's going to raise a flag for them. So then they will have questions, and they may have questions in that moment for that person that's trying to groom them, or they may have questions for a trusted adult after the fact. And that trusted adult may not necessarily be their parents, it may be a different adult. But so secrets, not surprises. And so Anakin's story, if this is something that you've taught your kids, or if this is something that a child has learned, then they see Anakin's story, and one of the flags that goes up is all of these things that Anakin feels like he has to keep secret.
Yes. Has to keep secret, and has an adult trusted mentor voice whispering in his ear, reaffirming you could never trust, Obi-Wan, Yoda, Windu, etc., the Council of the Jedi at large, with what happened on Tatooine. You could never trust them with this extreme action you had to take on in this battle. You could not trust them with this, that. So it goes without saying, you could never tell them about the fact that you got fucking married at the beginning of the war. And it's a piece of, it's a very predatory bargaining chip that Sidious maintains over Anakin.
And the piece of somebody impressing upon someone that they need to keep a secret also becomes a part of leveraging that person or emotionally blackmailing that person as it continues. And so, like, whether you want to talk about this through the lens of um, uh, making children more safe from grooming, or if you want to talk about this through the lens of international intelligence operatives, the way you groom an asset if you are a spy is the same way that a child predator grooms a child. It's once there is the first thing that they are having to keep secret, then you can force them to have to keep other secrets to prevent that first secret from being discovered. And so one of the things that we see Anakin do, and this is the conversation that you can have with your little, or frankly with anybody that is consuming the prequels or the animated Clone Wars or whatever. It's like, well, so why did Anakin feel like he needed to keep that first secret? Because he's telling this other lie so that he can keep this first secret, because he really doesn't want somebody to find out about that. And so then he's telling this other lie, and he's telling this other lie, and he's keeping these other secrets, and it seems like that's causing him a lot of problems. And now through this lens, then we get to the sit down with Yoda, which there are many people that want Yoda to hold the bag. They go to the conversation where Anakin says, "Hey, Master Yoda, I had this dream where somebody died, and it's a friend." And then Yoda's like, "So Anakin, I don't know if you know this or not, but everybody's gonna die. There's nothing you can do about it, man. Like, that's the job."
Yeah.
And it uses language that people that don't want to hear that, like, they object to it. But no, I'm gonna care about people. I have to care about people. It's like, yes, you do. You also have to care about everybody, because that's the job of the Jedi. And there's one of my mutuals on TikTok did the math yesterday. There's multiple quadrillion people in the Star Wars galaxy, and it is the Jedi's responsibility to care about all of them.
Yes.
Which is like, and so I understand why there are people that are just like, no, I don't want to be a Jedi. And I'm like, that's okay. I wouldn't either. It's way easier to have attachments. It's so much easier to have attachments. It's really hard to not have attachments. Because one of the things that people misunderstand with attachment is the difference between attachment and connection, and they assume that the words mean the same thing, and they don't.
Absolutely. Well, I think it's also, it goes a long way to like understand, what a lot of what Lucas himself said about, selfish love versus selfless love. I as somebody who, like my two favorite Star Wars characters are, Vader and Kylo Ren, or Anakin Skywalker and Ben Solo, whichever one, however you want to categorize them. And the reason why
pain, or okay, go ahead. You're gonna
yeah. I mean, I love my fallen heroes.
People that hate themselves.
I like my fallen heroes who come back at the end. But like, it's that dichotomy of, the extended meaning of finish what I started, that in that very perverse way is, subjugate the galaxy, wipe out the Jedi. There's also the redemptive element of finish what I started, and where Anakin defeat Palpatine again, but also, I look at these horrible things I did in the name of saving somebody I loved versus give your life in the name of saving a life. And that, like, Anakin could never have done for Padme what Ben did for Rey.
Right.
Not like that is just not somewhere Anakin's mind ever could have gone to.
And there's to tie in some High Republic really quickly, because this jumps into a quote that I really, really love. So anybody that doesn't know Daniel Jose Older, he's very present on TikTok, Instagram. He's an author in his own right, but he is also one of the High Republic authors and part of the High Republic story group. But so Daniel Jose Older has a young adult novel called Race to Crash Point Tower. And in chapter 10, I believe it's chapter 10, it's entirely possible I just Mandela affected myself, but whatever. But so there's a Jedi
There
Master.
could very well not be a 10th chapter in that.
No,
book.
there is absolutely a 10th
I-
chapter, but now I'm like, wait a minute, is it 14? Is it anyway? But so there's a Jedi Master, young Jedi Master named Vernestra Rowe, who everybody that's excited about the Acolyte, Vernestra is going to be one of the characters in the Acolyte, so be ready for that. Whip sabers are coming into visual canon. But Vernestra is in a ship along with a Padawan who is really, really struggling with attachment. And so the Padawan is like they're having some conflict, and then just like I am a big ball of attachments. I am attached to my friends, I'm attached to my masters, I'm attached to the ship, and it's not even a person. And so what do I do with all of these attachments? And so then Vernestra goes, so all these people that you just listed, could you save their life and never see them again? And so could you save your life and save their life and never see them again? And the character is like, well, yeah. Then it's not an attachment, because you saved them for them. You didn't save them for you. You didn't save them to keep them. Exactly. You saved them for them. And so Anakin does all manner of terrible things to keep Padme, not to save Padme. And that's the difference between a connection and an attachment.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, like, and in conversations like this, you know, it is again worth mentioning that yes, Anakin does love her, but it is this warped like inability to process loss because he has experienced such tremendous loss his entire life. So, and again, it makes him, you know, prime real estate for a predatory rat fuck like the Emperor. That, you know, and again, I just want to highlight this, you know, in the year of our Lord 2023, Alan and I are using groomer the way that word is intended to be used.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was going to call attention to it earlier, but I'm the more we say it, the more I'm thinking about people who just use that word willy nilly. In the same way that a lot of like the Q lunatics had that Save the Children hashtag going for the entirety of 2020 and into 2021, and in a lot of those efforts trying to derail this whole cloth fictional child trafficking ring that did not exist, got in the way of people doing actual work to protect victims of child trafficking
and people that work in the because Maryhurst, a lot of the people that Maryhurst serves are victims of childhood trafficking.
Yeah.
It's and so all of the things, like when groomer gets misused and other stuff like that, it makes their job harder. And these are already people that like society on the whole says they care about, but doesn't actually change anything. And it's so like, and like I'm catching smoke on my alt account today and yesterday because I posted a video that pointed out that Palpatine is Christian coded. Like in multiple scenes he's dressed like a priest on purpose. In multiple scenes, like, you know, it's like he is making the promise of eternal life in exchange for subservience. Like there's all of this stuff that is just like it's right there. And you know, like and is using their religion intertwined with political power to advance their agenda and all this stuff. It's like there's all this stuff that is just like it's right there. How does he keep dodging what you're talking about?
Bullets? Star Wars wasn't political until there was a black stormtrooper.
Yeah.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
How does
Darth
he keep
Vader did not
bullets?
directly quote George W. Bush. I have no idea what you're talking about.
Palpatine does not directly quote Dick Cheney. That was one of the things that was just like Lucas hasn't been shy about this. Like hell, when Empire Strikes Back was in theaters, he was just like, and for anybody that doesn't know this particular story, when Empire Strikes Back was in theaters, people asked George Lucas, "Was the Emperor like some kind of a dark Jedi?" Which, side note, is where the phrase "dark Jedi" comes from in Legends. Like, it was because that was before the word Sith was used in anything, and so dark Jedi, that was the genesis of this. That was the words people were using, which is also then where the words gray Jedi come from. Not gonna lie, I hope to God that's never canonized, but that's a separate thing. Like,
I do too, and
if you don't want to be a
I
Jedi,
like the
that's
term,
fine. If you don't
I
want to be a
like the
Sith,
term
also.
Dark Jedi because it applies very well to like an Asajj Ventress or a Kylo Ren, and it sounds cool as shit.
It sounds
Uh,
cool. It sounds cool as shit. But anyway, but so he was asked, like, is the Emperor some kind of dark Jedi? And it's like, no, he was a political opportunist that used a war to leverage himself into a position of power illegally, and his name is Richard Nixon. And that was like, it's so like Palpatine in Empire Strikes Back is supposed to be Nixon, because at the time the script for Return of the Jedi hadn't even actually really been outlined. Like, he had a rough idea of what he wanted to do, but there wasn't a like, this is what I'm going to do with this. And so like the dark sorcerer thing was later. Like, at this point, the plan for Return of the Jedi is still like, maybe Luke is going to kill his father and then pick up the mask and put it on. Right? Like, that was still like, it was like, that was still where Lucas was with the story, when he's just like, nope, the Emperor's Richard Nixon. The Empire is America. This is like, the rebels look like the Viet Cong on purpose.
I knew about that quote. It's been a while since I thought about it. And now I'm like envisioning like that scene in Jedi where Luke kicks Vader down the stairs, is like that time Gerald Ford ate shit.
Yeah.
Trying to climb onto Air Force One. Like, that's just how I'm envisioning that, is like that exact moment where Ford, oh, and he like backflips going down this. Anyway. But no, I think everything you're saying is super valuable, and like it adds a much needed like clarity on like Anakin's role in his turn, because I think a lot of people struggle to in a very nuanced way go, Anakin Skywalker made the choices he made, but there were certain choices that could only have been made because of a situation he ended up in, that he did not have full control over the situation he was put in, but he made the wrong decisions. And, again, like, there's this weird zero-sum game where it's either all the Jedi's fault, all the Emperor's fault, or all Anakin's fault. And, like, it is really maddening. And I think it lends itself towards having conversations about protecting children from predatory forces, because like, this is a prime example. Like, you in one of your videos, I like rewatched the playlist on your TikTok while I was like eating before we started, and like that whole mentality of, yeah, but he couldn't tell Obi-Wan. That's exactly what a predator would want Anakin.
There are a number of things that people lay at the feet of the Jedi that are phrases that groomers directly use with children to keep children from going to trusted adults to get help. And so there are a number of things that, and people either don't recognize that they're doing it, or it's just become so persistent in the fandom that it's what it is. I've had a number of comments recently, especially because the thing that's blown up on my alt account, but where people are like, well, but like, Anakin was not provided the emotional support that a damaged person was supposed to get. And then it becomes the, well, let's talk about this.
Yeah.
And so within the movies, we can't actually say for sure, because the movies don't provide us a window into any of those moments, and the movies are told from Anakin's point of view. And so we know that everybody around Anakin knew that Anakin was struggling, and they were trying to reach him at various points, and he was stonewalling them. And now we can say, well, they should have parked him at a desk, and they probably should have. But then we get the meta answer of, but Vader had to become Vader. And so Lucas kind of wrote himself into a corner a couple of different places. And that's why he had to bring in, Spielberg to help him with Revenge of the Sith and some other stuff like that. But so like now, all right, well, let's add the animated. And this provides a little bit more stuff. And it's like, well, okay, so Palpatine's been grooming him all along. And Anakin has this pattern of choosing to knowingly make the wrong choice and then not accept accountability for that.
Yeah.
And so people point to Qui-Gon as an example and say, it's like, well, Qui-Gon didn't always do what the council told him to. No, but when Qui-Gon didn't do what the council told him to, he would stand there and say, all right, it is on me. I didn't.
Yeah.
It is worth it to me to not be on the council, to be able to you know, like to be able to make decisions the way I do. I am making that trade. I accept that.
I
Right.
think a lot of that's also a very like there's a very big difference between Qui-Gon like between Qui-Gon having like a conviction and like even being willing to look Yoda and Windu in the eye and go, I'm gonna train this fucking kid, versus Anakin just like going, no, actually, the Chancellor told me I could, so I did. I think there's a very big difference there that
Yeah.
like a lot of people don't kind of zero in on. Like, yeah, like I fully agree with the, you know, like had Anakin been trained by Qui-Gon, I don't necessarily think he would have turned. But like that's
Is
because Qui-Gon could have been a voice to rival Palpatine's.
it's
Like
also
that
it's also canonical, except I still don't know how it's different. Because unless they are preventing Palpatine from getting in Anakin's ear, based on what we see from Anakin's radicalization, I don't know how Qui-Gon makes a difference. I honestly don't. I would love to see the AU. My argument previously, and there were a lot of people that didn't like this, is that Qui-Gon was better at non-attachment than Kenobi, and so Qui-Gon would have double tapped on Mustafar, and that's how it prevents the genesis of Vader.
oh man,
People did
bad.
not like that video. People did not like that video.
Well, for me, I think a lot of it is that I think Qui-Gon would have been a rivaling voice to Palpatine's, like better than Obi-Wan would have been able to. And I think a lot of that, you know, Obi-Wan was an incredible teacher. He was an incredible brother to Anakin. But as Dave Filoni has said, like Anakin needed a father figure. And where Qui-Gon wasn't there, Palpatine kind of swooped in. And I think that having somebody who like could have leveled with Anakin in a non-toxic way and probably would have had a more fulfilling relationship with Anakin than Palpatine had. That's where Anakin has somebody who does feel like an elder to him and not just like the guy who got stuck with him. Anakin would have seen, like in the same way that Palpatine's always like, rah, Anakin. Like he saw Qui-Gon do that, but like truly, meaningfully, not to use Anakin. But he was like, no, I need to teach this kid. This kid needs somebody. And he watched that whole room in the council say no to him. And then got like, okay, fine. I guess Qui-Gon's dead. Here, Obi-Wan, it's your problem now.
And this is where then it's like, okay, so now let's include the canon comics. Okay, so in the canon comics, there's a scene where Kenobi is saying to Anakin, look, if you decide you need to leave the Order, I will leave the Order with you, so you don't have to figure that out alone.
Yeah.
All right. And so where I push back on the Kenobi as a brother figure and all that kind of stuff, because that just goes back to you were my brother, Anakin, right? Like that's why people like, right. That's where that statement comes from. And when you look at the mentorship that is canonical of Kenobi and Anakin, it's sort of like like okay, it's brotherly, but it's like it's I really dislike when teachers say I am like a parental figure to my students, you know, like that's something that's like I feel mixed about instructors that do that, because I have had my instructor since 1993. Right. And so like as a mentor figure, it is the only things that I can liken that to are a parent at this point in my life. Those are the only the only mentors I've had in my life that long are parents. Right. And there aren't very many people that will have somebody in their life as a mentor that long. Like you can say sibling, but it's like, you know, but that's like the Kenobi was a brother. Like I push back on that one, and it's just like, okay, so like define father, define brother, and then we can agree on terms, and maybe I'll be with you. But that's one of my hesitations on that particular talking point. Is that
I get that?
Like,
I get that. I don't fully agree, but your stance is I completely get it, and that makes perfect sense.
Because define the difference between a paternal relationship and a sibling relationship, and then I can be like, okay, I see where you're coming from. I agree. But the way that I define the difference between those, it's like Kenobi was more of a father figure than a brother figure. So I don't agree with this statement based on how I define a paternal relationship versus a sibling relationship.
I think parts of it, for me, I think their relationship starts in that paternal way because of the age difference. But like the war, I think, is where their relationship truly changed, and that their bond took on that more brotherly nature, because even though Obi-Wan like gets the rank of master much sooner, and like they are separated in like in a pedantic rank for the most part, that they spend so much time side by side as equals, that like the time that they spend like in the crucible of the Clone Wars, they spend as equals. And like even though it's super duper not canon, but like that conversation that's had between them in the Tartakovsky Clone Wars.
Yeah.
Where there's that whole moment of, like we're taking a step from, student and master to brothers. And I think that they both kind of had that moment where they went, this relationship is not what it used to be. And I think that they function better together when
Well,
there
and
is
so,
not that.
and so as a parent and as an instructor, right? What do you think happens as a parent when your kid is old enough to make their own decisions?
Yeah.
Like, what is that? It's like that relationship's not the same anymore. Like once you're a student, once you're a child, whoever, once they are a functioning adult, which we can say that like that's part of Anakin's journey in the prequels as well, is transitioning into like adult that can make his own choices, because he's 22, 24 when he becomes Vader or something like that.
Yeah.
And then it's because it's intentionally bookended, where he's the amount of time from birth to becoming Vader, like he spends half his time as Anakin, half his time as Vader. I don't like using it as a like they are separate people. I believe that Anakin and Vader are the same person.
Yeah.
But like that's the right. And so it's 22 years, 24 years.
He spends an equal half considering himself Anakin Skywalker and
whatever, under the name of, right?
Yeah.
Doing business as. But so like
the artist formerly known as Anakin.
But so like as you transition into college, as you graduate into college and you move away from home, and you are still like, your parents are still a mentor, but now that relationship is different. And so for me, Kenobi and Anakin parallel that track more than, oh, we're siblings now. Does that make sense? And now you don't.
Yeah.
And listeners, guys, like you don't have to agree with any of this perspective, but this is the reason why I have the pushback on like Kenobi was like a brother or whatever, because it's just like, well, let's define our terms so that we can know that we're talking about the same thing. Because there are a lot of people that want to talk to me about the Jedi solely through the lens of the movies, because that's what they've consumed. And then there's other people that want to talk about the Jedi and laying blame at the Jedi's feet entirely through the movies and the animated, but not including other canon materials that we have now that really flesh out how much Palpatine has been in Anakin's ear since he was 9 years old.
Yeah.
I've got a short amount of time left. Is there anything that you want to hit that we haven't hit?
I was gonna say, yeah, I saw that we were coming up on time. No, just that I really love this exploration of kind of looking at Anakin as somebody who is, for lack of a better term, I don't even like using this term, but was like was an at-risk youth, and somebody who was absolutely like in the crosshairs of a predator, and not just this like supernatural force that was necessarily predestined for anything. So absolutely lovely conversation. Yeah.
10 out of 10. I would do this again.
I look forward to having you on again. And that is all from Jedi Master, our friendly neighborhood Master Alan. He was on a bit of a time crunch, so I let him go. So we're going to finish up our normal outro here for our lovely viewers. Quick little note, not 100% sure when you guys will be able to start taking advantage of this, but pretty soon. A little conversation we had whenever Master Alan was on his way out. Richard very much wants me to finish recording. He's very upset that I've been in here for so long. Precious little boy. The Nerd Academy podcast has just become the latest affiliate podcast of Level Up Sabers. So pretty soon, you guys are going to be able to find a link to Level Up Sabers in our description, on our link tree, etc., etc. So very excited for you guys to be able to not only get some kick-ass lightsabers, some Level Up, you'll also be able to support your favorite nerds while you do it, just like with Sunday's Bloody Mary. So be sure to keep your eyes up for that. I have some ideas for something we can do with these with this Level Up Sabers sponsorship. Richard, please stop, buddy. He keeps picking his paw under the door. It looks like he's waving. I wish you all could see it. Anyway, thank you. I'm so used to having somebody to bounce off of to get to me. Go find Master Allen at Level Up Sabers, Level Up Light on all of the social medias. I'll have his link tree in the description, as well as the charity he's helping to benefit the in need children down in Kentucky. You guys can find me at Twitter and Instagram at DarkJedi2552. Then you can find the Nerd Academy podcast on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and wherever you get podcasts, as well as our website, www.thenerdacademypodcast.com. I don't know if you guys can hear Richard screaming, but he's going ape shit. But you go to our website, thenerdacademypodcast.com, where if you're feeling generous, you can donate to our Patreon.
Give me $1.
Speaking of our patrons, thank you to our $10 alumnus, Keandre Lloyd.
On which planet?
That was the promo for the rematch. And to Paco, or as he's going by right now, Trivia King Scotty J-Ro.
My voice.
Speaking of our patrons, tonight at time of record, we're going to be taping Shock T versus Darth Vader. I am very excited for this one. This is a matchup I've been looking forward to ever since we did our Jedi Council versus stream, and everybody was underplaying Shock T. We're here to give Shock her flowers, guys. So check that out at the $5 tier of our Patreon, where you get access to nearly 30 episodes of bonus content covering some of your favorite Jedi and Sith duking it out in the fighting pit. But yeah, stay tuned for more stuff coming down the road. Hope to have a news roundup out next week. There will probably be a lighter week at the beginning of the end of May, beginning of June, as myself, Kaysen, and our respective better halves will be venturing out to Fan Expo Philly. Y'all are getting the worst outro I've ever recorded. I apologize. I'm sneezing. Richard's going ape shit. We'll be a Fan Expo Philly. So if any of you guys are going to be a Fan Expo Philly, please, we'll be there on Saturday. Come find us. We won't be hard to locate, as we will all be wearing Roosevelt's, as is our usual attire. So yeah, come see us if you're a Fan Expo Philly. I think we're going to be trying to link with the Bro Axiom people there as well. So catch you out there. We're going to be meeting Hayden Christensen, Darth Vader himself, the man we've talked about this entire episode. So, yeah, keep an eye out for us there. Keep an eye out for some stuff coming down the pipeline. And be sure to check out Level Up Light using our affiliate link when that is available. You can check out our link tree, which is linked on our Twitter, on our Instagram, and I'll make sure is in our episodes moving forward so you can get to it. It'll also be linked once the affiliate code is ready within our show description. So in the same way that there's a Sunday's Bloody Mary link, there will also be a Level Up Light link, or Level Up Sabers rather. So yeah, thank you all so very much for watching. Thank you to Master Allen for joining us, and may the Force be with you always.
Stop!